You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest of all.
Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. And when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins number one.
Hello, Miami Dolphins fans. How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Tuesday, March the 11th, the second day of the legal tampering period in the NFL. I am your host, Michael Leva, joined by Tom Ernest from right here at DolphinsTalk.com from DolphinsTalk.com. Tom, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Mike. Chris Greer woke up last night and he kept busy today with some more additions to the roster. We'll go through that. And obviously, I'm refreshing like crazy, like most everybody has been for the last roughly 18 hours since tampering period opened up. Actually, more than that, 32 hours. But either way, the Dolphins are making moves. They are adding to the roster. Not everybody is going to be happy about it, but these are the moves that they are making, and hopefully that.
Yeah, and we're going to break down all the moves from Tuesday, and we'll also touch base again on some of the moves that they made on Monday as well, for those of you who might have missed the show yesterday, and to get Tom's thoughts as he was unable to join me last night. So we have a ton to go over on today's show. But before we get to any of that, a shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Everyone go to caneswear.com. Yes, the website, caneswear.com, caneswear.com, for the best Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you need a shirt, if you need a hoodie, if you need a blanket, socks, you need a jacket, a windbreaker, a coat, or anything with the Miami Dolphins logo on it, go to the website caneswear.com and shop for all the best Miami Dolphins apparel. And yes, they ship internationally as well. And if you're looking for stuff for the Miami Heat, the Florida Panthers, the Miami Marlins, the Miami Hurricanes, or any other college teams in Florida, really, also caneswear.com is the spot for you. Caneswear is the best, so go to the website caneswear.com. Also, real quick, Dolphins Talk Extra. If you haven't signed up yet, what the hell are you waiting for? Go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. If you sign up for $3 a month right now, yes, $3 a month, you are automatically entered to win this Tyreek Hill mini bobblehead doll. And I know Tyreek's not the most popular player right now in South Florida, but here's the deal. This is rare. There's only 144 of them made ever. This is one of them. Never been opened, mint in box, all that stuff. Sign up for Dolphins Talk Extra, $3 a month. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. You have a chance to win this. You also get access to bonus podcasts. Some about the Dolphins, some about pro wrestling, the NBA, Major League Baseball, reality TV, music, and all that stuff. Extra podcasts, a private message board, and you're entered automatically into every future contest we run, whether it's an autograph or a bobblehead. So go to patreon.com/Dolphins Talk. Sign up, $3 a month, the best $3 you ever spend. And let's get to the news. Before we get to the signings, Tom, let's talk about some big news concerning the draft. The NFL today released the compensatory picks for this upcoming draft based on what happened last year in free agency. And the Miami Dolphins were awarded not one, not two, not three, but four. Yes, four compensatory picks. One of them is at the end of round 3. The second compensatory pick in round 3, pick 98. They were then awarded the first compensatory pick in round 4, pick 135. Then they got 3 compensatory picks. They got 2 compensatory picks in round 7. This gives Miami 11 overall picks in this April's draft. And how they got 4 compensatory picks, they got 1 for losing Hunt. That's the one in round 3. They got 1 for losing Christian Wilkins. Should have been round 3, but since he got hurt and he didn't play much, that fell to the one in round 4. Then for the combination of losing Raekwon Davis, Elliott, Brandon Jones, Andrew Van Ginkel, and Cedric Wilson, and only signing Aaron Brewer, Jordan Brooks, and Kendall Fuller. So they signed really 4. They lost 7. That gave them 2 extra ones in round 7. Actually, one of them in round 7 is just for Elliott, and then the combination of everything is the extra one in round 7. Here are the 11 picks official per the NFL in their website. Round 1, pick 13 overall. Round 2, pick 48 overall. Round 3, pick 98 overall. Round 4, pick 116 overall. Round 4, pick 135 overall. Round 5, pick 150 overall. Round 5, pick 155. Nothing in round 6. Then in round 7, they have 224, 231, 253, 256. 11 picks, Tom. Now, I know most of them, I would say around 5 and 7, but they in the first 4 rounds, they got 1, 2, 3. They got 5 picks in the first 4 rounds, 5 picks in the first 135. Hopefully, they can get some contributors there.
100%. You're loaded up with draft picks. Now it's time to shine. You know, there's been good moments from this front office running the show. Jalen Waddle comes to mind. Jalen Phillips, Javon Holland, who just said goodbye for New York. But you know, the Dolphins have found some gems in the draft. It's not like every pick is a home run. Not every pick is a win. You lose more in the draft than you win, but when you find the wins, they got to be in the top portions of the draft because that's where your longer term players are going to be coming from. So based on the moves that they've been making at this point, you can kind of see a little bit of direction of what they're thinking for draft night. In my opinion, I think I could see the vision at this point, but we still got a little bit of time with the first round of free agency through the rest of this week. And then, you know, you're going to get some, you know, pickups here, a little pickup here before the draft. But having 11 draft picks is better than 10. So it's what you do with those draft picks that makes a difference. The 4 picks in round 7, package those suckers up and get back into like the 6th or the 5th if you really like someone, or trade those picks for picks next year.
That's what I would try and do.
And that would, you know, because you don't want to take 4 players in the 7th round of the draft. There's no purpose to it. Package some picks up, either move up the board or move back. And with those extra 7s, you could potentially move up, especially if you want to take your own 4th and try to get back into the 3rd. There's always an opportunity with having all of those back end picks.
Yeah. We'll see what they do. I think, and we'll talk about this more as we get on with the show, from the early signings they've had in the first 2 days, which of course, none of these can be made official till Thursday, but these guys are signed with Miami. I think they're going to be looking heavily on defense. I think they brought a couple offensive linemen. They addressed wide receiver. They're going to be looking heavily on that side of the ball because they need a lot of help right now at linebacker, corner, and the defensive line. We'll see what they do here in the next week or two because really free agency, you know, I don't want to say it's over after like the first few weeks, but once you get to like the end of March, the guys who are still left, yeah, there's a couple guys who can help you, no doubt, but they're older. They're guys who are going to have like 1-year deals who, you know, might have 1 year left in them. So really the next couple weeks here is going to tell us a lot about what this team will or won't be this upcoming season. All right, let's get to the news of the day. Before we get to the signings, Javon Holland is officially gone. Signed a 3-year, $45.3 million contract with $30.3 million guaranteed with the New York Giants. Now, Cameron Wolf of the NFL Network said Miami made him a very similar offer to what he got from the Giants prior to last season. Holland refused it, probably thinking I'm going to have a great year and I'll get more. That didn't happen. And then he said that Miami never made Holland a competitive offer since the season ended. So whatever they offered him at the start of last year, it wasn't close to what they sort of were thinking about what they would possibly pay him since the season ended. So that's why he is gone. Cameron Wolf said that that they're very high on Patrick McMorris, which is like an excuse for letting him go and not trying to re-sign him, which I'm not sure I totally believe that. It's like, what do you expect him to say? They just let a guy who I know fans right now are really down on Holland, but I think they're trying to self-cope. Well, we got Patrick McMorris, and we like him a lot. Okay, he's never played in a game. Let's relax. But Holland's gone. It's not a surprise he's gone. But I think for Holland, the off year he had this past year, Tom, cost us some money. Look, he made a lot of money. It's essentially a 2-year, $30 million payday for him, which is not bad. It's great. But I think if he had a stronger 2024, he would have got a lot more money this week.
Yeah, he would have got Trayvon Mooring type figures if he had a better 2024 season. But, the tape doesn't lie. These general managers and coaches are looking at film, and a lot of what I watched last year was Javon Holland not playing 100% the entire time, and not regards of health, regards of physicality. He made business decisions. He got out of the way of, steamrolling running backs, kind of Olay tackle or trying to tackle somebody. It was not a very good season for Javon Holland, especially coming off what he did in 2023, where he was fantastic. So he cost himself money in the long run. And the Dolphins, I think, realized that maybe he just didn't want to be here anymore. So why even try to offer him anything right now and be stuck with somebody who wasn't happy? And clearly he wasn't happy in 2023 when the Dolphins had a top 5 defense. And he wasn't happy in 2024 because he was playing on a contract year, which most people would, go balls to the wall on every single play to get that money. And again, the Dolphins were a top 5 defense. So it's the Giants, you get what you pay for. I think Holland's still a very good football player. He just played his way out of Miami. And he lost a lot of money, Mike. I think he left $30+ million on the table for lackluster play in 2024.
Yeah, I also don't think after how last season played out, they really didn't want him back, because what he got paid from the Giants, if they offered him that prior to last season or something close,
he would have said no.
Well, you would just pay that now. Like, why would you take that off the table? To me, it's a sign they just wanted to move on from him. And look, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. We don't know, but just go back to the end of your press conference Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel had. What did they say? They made it clear, because guys showing up to play for me, and I'm not saying Holland was, I have no idea, but they're like, we're going to move on from some guys because of the issue with the culture. And I'm not saying he was part of the problem, but it does make you wonder, was he part of the problem? Because what he got paid, they could have matched that. They could have found money. Easy. They could have just restructured Jordan Brooks and paid him that easily. They didn't want to. And they signed a couple guys, let's talk about them now, who are, career backups. They're not guys who you really want to count on to start, although I think Miami's going to count on them, at least one of them to start at least. Let's start with the first move that came early in the morning. The Dolphins signed, and man, some of these names are tough to pronounce. I'm trying my best, folks. Ifeatu Melifonwu from the Lions. Now, I should know this name because he was a 3rd-round pick out of Syracuse in 2021, but I couldn't pronounce his name when he was here, and I damn sure haven't learned to pronounce it since he went to the Lions, and he hasn't been on my mind since then. He was a 3rd-round pick in 2021, 101 overall. In 2024, last year, he only played 3 games. He had 2 stints on IR. In 2023, he did play 17 games. He started 6, 33 tackles. He's only had more than 15 tackles in his season once, which was 2023. He has 2 career interceptions and 72 career tackles. He's a total freak athlete. The issue is you have to put on the caveat when he's healthy, because he's never healthy. And, I think he's someone, again, when he's healthy, you can pencil him in as a starter. He's way better than Jordan Poyer, no doubt. But this is a guy who misses a lot of games, and you have to factor that in. He does also have the ability to play corner. That's where he sort of was at Syracuse at times. And I know the Lions, when he first got there, they moved him back and forth before he sort of settled into safety. but he's got the raw physical talent. It's just he's got to stay on the field, and that's going to be a big question with him this year. It's a 1-year deal for $4 million, low risk. I guess it's high reward, although, again, he's a nice player. In a perfect world, you don't want him to start, although I got a feeling he probably will start in Miami this year.
He's got a decent chance to start. What I said on Sunday night, and we've talked about it honestly since Anthony Weaver has been in Miami for over a year, is he likes the idea of rotational safeties. Last year, he really didn't have the opportunity to do so because most of the safeties were hurt. And the two safeties that did start, I'll steal your saying, Mike, they stunk on toast. They were bad. Melifonwu is, I liked what I saw from him in 2023. His passer rating against, I believe, was under 64 passer rating against, and he played a decent amount of snaps in 2023. The Lions had bigger plans for him last season. Unfortunately, he just got hurt, and it's of course it's the NFL. Everyone's going to get hurt, but now that he's a Miami Dolphin, it's a spotlight, right? He was hurt last year. So he's coming off injury. He's had some ankle issues. So hopefully he comes into camp healthy, ready to go, because I'd like to see a nice rotation of safeties. I don't want to see – I want to see one main guy that's playing back at safety who plays more than 70% of the snaps on defense, but I want to see 2 or 3 other guys that can be that rotational piece on the back end. And I think Melifonwu is one of those guys that can be a good rotational piece. Now, again, are you asking him to start? Maybe, but how many snaps is he going to see in the game? 30 to 40% of the snaps? That's not a ton. He's young. He's got raw athletic ability, and the guy can hit. He can hit. So he's a physical guy, 6'3", 210. It's a guy you need on defense, especially at that safety position, because he can play in the box and he can blitz the quarterback. So think of him as like the usage of like Brandon Jones from a few years ago. That's the type of player that they believe they could have with him. At least in my opinion, that's the type of role they'll have for him.
Yeah, he's a little bit of a chess piece in that way because, like I said, very athletic, but he's got to stay on the field. He can't just give us 5 games. I mean, if he can give us close to 17, I know these days as they keep adding extra weeks in the season, extra games, asking guys to play 17 is just harder. But if he can give you 15, sign me up right now. If he gives you 5 or 6, we're going to have a problem. The Dolphins also signed safety Ashton Davis from the New York Jets, 1 year, $2.5 million. He was a 3rd-round pick by the Jets in 2020. Played in 69 total NFL games, only starting 22. He has 175 career tackles. He does have 8 interceptions, which is a lot, but 2 of those came in the Week 18 game last year versus Miami and Tyler Huntley, so factor that in. His best season came in 2021 when he played in 13 games and he started 10, and he had 2 interceptions and 62 tackles. Now, I reached out to someone who, who covers the Jets, and he said Ashton Davis runs hot and cold. He'll play very good for a stretch, then he'll miss a ton of assignments and struggles and get beaten badly. You literally don't know what you will get from him week to week. And again, in Miami now, he's going to have an opportunity to get playing time because Javon Holland's gone, and so is Jordan Poyer as well. If he's a backup safety, fine. If he has to start, it's going to be a long 2025 season. This guy's not a starter in this league. But coming off the bench as your 3rd safety, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm not going to complain. I mean, it's 1 year, $2.5 million, and that's the role he's made for. If he ends up being a starter just because, someone gets hurt, we don't take someone in the draft because they're all gone before we can take one. I mean, it's going to be a long season if this guy starts. But I think as your 3rd safety, it's fine. But no expectations here. You got to keep expectations in check, I think, is the way to talk about this signing, Tom.
Yeah. I don't see him as a starter. Again, it's a rotational piece. He's not going to make, he's not going to break the bank, number one. And number two, you want guys that can do kind of a double duty. You want him to play spot defensively. You want him to be a rotational piece at safety. Fine. Where his bread and butter is, Mike, is on special teams as well. He's played, now again, his entire career has been with the Jets since 2020. And starting in 2022, 75% of the special team snaps, 82%, and last year, 75%. He is going to be a special teams guy for the most part. Obviously, they need to make sure he knows what to do in that secondary, especially at safety. He has had good moments. Okay. He was very bad in 2020 and 2021 when he was playing more. He was a starter for the Jets 10 games in 2021 out of the 13 games he played. And he got lit up, 123.1 passer rating against. Now, in spot detail, his passer rating against the last 3 seasons, 56.2, 33.3, and 66.2. So if you're asking him to be a rotational piece, I'm good with it. If you're asking him to be a full-time starter, yeah, okay, I'm a little hesitant on that. But as a rotational piece, fine. Special teams guy, fine. He's not going to break the bank. I'm okay with Ashton Davis.
I agree. That's the role for him and nothing more, which kind of leads into the next signing, or in this case, a re-signing that Miami said today that they are making, and they re-signed safety Elijah Campbell, 1 year, $1.9 million. He joined Miami in 2021. He's played in 55 games. He started 3 at safety. He is primarily known for his special teams play, but he has stepped in and contributed at safety when, shocking, injuries have hurt Miami's secondary, which seems to be like every year of late. Now, I'm going to say this as nicely as possible, and I know some people probably won't agree with me. As a special teams player, great. Happy he's on the team. Yep. If he's got to play, he has got off with safety. Like, he's really bad at safety. And if he is playing any significant snaps at safety this season, again, it's going to be a long year. Now, for your 4th safety, no problem. 4th safety, run down punts, run down, that's fine. But that's all he is. He cannot place it. Not hating, just stating. Watch any time he's played safety the past few years. You want to know why we really lost that game to the Tennessee Titans in 2023 on Monday Night Football? Campbell was in the 4th quarter looking lost and getting beat like a drum because he didn't know where he belonged. I mean, he's just not a safety. But again, 1 year, $1.9 million for a guy who could be a 4th safety and a special teams guy. With these signings, here's what they got right now at safety. You got Tafedu Melifanu. You have Ashton Davis. You have Patrick McMorris. You have Elijah Campbell. There's 4. Get someone in round 1 or 2 or 3, probably. That's your safety room for this year. Hopefully the guy they get in round 1 or 2 or 3 can start as a rookie. That would be ideal. But I think that's your safety room. I think they've sort of cleared this up to where we know we need one more piece. We need one more piece who can actually start. And maybe they take it at pick 13. Maybe they take it at pick 48. That's fine. You have a well-rounded safety room. So you got some questions, but, it's fine. And if they don't get that other piece, though, it's going to be rough because, once again, you don't want Campbell playing significant snaps at safety. Nice guy, nice player. Special teams is where he should spend the majority of his time, though.
Yeah, I agree. Special teams is where he belongs. You can't have enough good special teams players. Let's be frank, the Dolphins' special teams have sucked. Elijah Campbell hasn't been one that has sucked on special teams. But yes, in a pinch, if he needs to play, I don't want him to be starter. I want him to be more rotational. But as a special teams guy, I'm all for it. Elijah Campbell's has been a good guy in the locker room. You haven't heard anything bad about Elijah Campbell. It's a good re-signing, and it's not, again, you're not breaking the bank for these guys. It's worth bringing guys back you trust and like. Obviously, they like Campbell enough to bring him back.
Yeah.
But I will say this before we move on from the safety. You talked about the draft, Mike. In the first 2 rounds of this draft, the Dolphins have to come away. Have to come away with Nick Emenwari, Malachi Starks, Xavier Watts, or Andrew Makuba. No ifs, ands, or buts. One of those guys have to be a Miami Dolphin in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
That would be nice. It really will. I mean, we'll see. We will see. I don't know. I think round 2. I think here's what. Before I go on to some of the other guys they signed, just real quick, what we've learned Monday and Tuesday, Chris Greer hasn't changed one bit. He loves his guys who coming off a little bit of an injury that he can get at a deal, and he ain't paying top dollar for safety or guard. So I'm hard pressed to think in round 1 he's going to take a safety or he will take an offensive or he'll take like a guard. He might take an offensive tackle who can play guard. That's a tackle he's really taking, which he can then replace Austin Jackson a year from now. Or if Patrick Paul's not any good, he can put him out there. That he could do. But he ain't taking a safety in round 1. So I think we're looking round 2 or 3. Now, look, if he trades down in round 1 to the bottom half of round 1, yes, he could take a safety because he'd probably get extra picks here. That would be one scenario where he might. But if he just stays where he is, he ain't taking a safety in round 1. I'd be stunned. Let's put it that way. I'd be really, because that's not his MO. And we know his MO these days because he is transparent as cellophane after all these years. Everyone knows who he is. So there's that. Here's probably the signing I like the most. They got themselves a number 3 wide receiver who I think is pretty damn good. Nick Westbrook Kinney, 2 years, $6.5 million, $3.2 million guaranteed. This kid can play, and I think putting him next to Hill and Waddle is going to be great. He's 6'2", so he gives us a little height next to all the little smaller wide receivers we have in this room, and Hill, Waddle, and Malik Washington. He went undrafted in 2020, signed with the Titans. He has 19 career touchdowns, including 9 last year alone. And those 9 touchdowns he had last year came on just 32 receptions for 497 yards. You want to throw a fade in the end zone now because we know Mike McDaniel ain't going to stop. Throw it to this guy. And he's also a red zone target as well with his height and how he can use his body. And we needed depth in the wide receiver room because we know Tyreek Hill, a little bit of a nutcase, never know what's going to go on with him. Waddle, every time he gets hit, it takes him 10 minutes to stand up, it feels like. He's always limping from week 1 to the final week. This guy always looks like he's in pain. So with those 2 guys, you need a legit number 3. This isn't Odell Beckham. This isn't hoping Eric Izukama finally, help. No, this is a guy who can play. He's young. He's hungry. Production. And he put up those numbers in that, sorry for swearing, shit offense in Tennessee. If Miami's offense can get clicking again, I think he'd put up, maybe not 9 touchdowns good, but he'll put up numbers as a number 3 wide receiver in this offense, which hopefully can regain its form this year. Because right now, it's Hill, Waddle, Nick Westbrook, Kinney, Malik Washington. Odell Beckham, gone. He's got legal issues of his own nowadays. Eric Izukama, don't let the door hit you. River Craycraft, maybe he comes back, maybe he doesn't. Don't really care, honestly. And Braxton Berrios signed with Houston this week. Why? I have no idea what Houston's thinking. But either way, I love this signing, Tom.
I do too. I think, for who he is, he's been, kind of like that reliable backup receiver in Tennessee. He got a little bit more shine last year when he was kind of forced into that number 1 role after Treylon Burks went down. He was kind of thrusted into that role. Mike, he had a 98-yard touchdown reception.
Minnesota, yeah,
against the Vikings in 9 touchdowns in 9 starts. So, but he played all 17 games. He played 14 games the year before, 17 the year before that, 16 the year before that, and 14 his rookie season. He's healthy. He's been relatively healthy, but now that he's coming down to Miami, we'll see what happens. But in all seriousness, he can actually reach the snacks on the top shelf for the other wide receivers. He's 6'2". So you can line him up in the slot. You can line him up on the outside. You can do a little bit more with Waddle and Hill, lining them up in different spots and not on the outside to cause mismatches. So I don't think they're done adding size receiver room. It's not a pressing need in free agency to add another guy to the receiver room, but I believe the Dolphins are still going to look for another wide receiver with size in the draft. You pick your poison on wherever they're going to do it. I think
it's going to be late rounds. Now, this is not because they got their top 4 sealed in now. And I think this takes wide receiver, any temptation, if someone falls rounds 1, 2, and 3, at least, that takes it right off the board. That takes it. I mean, there's no sense in signing one right now because they have so many holes everywhere else. I think this kid is good enough where you can, safely pencil him in as your number 3. You're paying your 1 and 2 $30 million each, and you took Washington last year, who played good at the end of the year. You got your top 4. There's no need to take a wide receiver early in this draft. I don't care who falls in your lap. Take something else later. Round 4 or 5 on, go for it. Because once you get to those rounds, it's kind of a whatever. You're just hoping for the best. But the first 3 rounds, those first 100 picks, they don't need to take a wide receiver now. And if they did take one, they're freaking idiots.
Look, there are moments that Chris Grier will surprise us with stupidity, 80% of the time at least. But I'm still proponent. If you're debating at 13 to take a tight end or one of the top wide receivers, I'm taking the wide receiver every single time. That's just me and my thought process. It's not going to be on the board at 13, but I'm a proponent, and I think I've been a proponent for quite a few years. I would love to see the Dolphins potentially trade back depending on how the board falls in round 1, knowing that they still can get a guy that they really love, whether they trade back 3 spots or 10 spots. Pick up extra draft picks because they need depth. They need starters at many key positions right now. Free agency is not done. I understand that.
Yeah.
But they still have a lot that they have to address. And if it's just going to be, here's a guy here for $1 million, here's another 1-year deal, here's another 1-year deal, it's not long-term answers. They got to get long-term answers here, and that comes in the draft. So I'm open to whatever they want to do, but I'm still in the camp of, if you find a 6'1", 6'2" wide receiver in the draft, whatever round you want to look at them, it doesn't matter if it's round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. I don't care. If you find someone that can play the position, they'll probably draft one.
Yeah,
they need.
I mean, they got nothing on defense right now. That's where they got to that's where they got to focus early picks in the draft. They have nothing on defense. If they took a wide receiver in those first 100 picks, it's really just malpractice at that point. I mean, that's really just idiotic at that point. Last signing, Miami.
They have to take a head when Tyreek Hill goes away, though.
Worry about it next year, Tom. They got to get through this year first. That's how. I mean, unless they have a plan to trade him post June 1st, then fine. If they don't have that plan, then there's no sense taking one this year. It just makes zero sense, especially after this move. It just doesn't. Miami re-signed Quentin Bell to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. They didn't tender him last week, but they got him back at $1.5 million. Again, nice piece for depth. He played in 17 games last year. He started 3, only had 27 tackles, 1 sack. It was great last year in training camp. I remember last August when we're getting all the reports out of camp. Every day, this guy's putting on a show. Once the regular season came, he was literally invisible. So, I mean, you know who he is. As, you know, you got Chubb, you got Chop, Jalen Phillips hopefully comes back healthy, and then you got Quentin Bell as your 4th. And if they do add someone like Joey Bosa, who we'll talk about later, or someone else, he just goes down a spot. That's all this is. Nice guy to have on the team. It's fine, but don't expect him to really contribute much, because when he was on the field last year, he didn't contribute.
Yeah. Again, a nice depth piece. He proved himself over the summer, like he said. He had some okay moments in the regular season, but again, we fall in love with the guys during the summer when the pads are off and they're running around and they seem like they're making plays, and in the preseason games when they're going against guys that are bagging groceries next week or playing in the USFL or UXL, whatever they call it now, that's where most of those guys go. But
yeah,
he provided the depth that was needed. He's a special teams guy, et cetera, et cetera. So you're still building the back end of the roster. That, to me, a few of these moves that the Dolphins have made, at least today, is you're building the back end of the roster. Now focus on the front end of the roster. Let's get some more guys here that can start.
Yeah. So that's the moves there that they made today. Really, 2 re-signings and 3 new additions. Nothing here that sort of breaks the bank, but also nothing here that really moves the needle any. I saw some people on social media sort of talking about, would you rather have Javon Holland and Jordan Poyer or Ashton and Malafanu? I know it's easy to crap on the guys who aren't here anymore. I get it. And I know Jordan Poyer was freaking awful, but I'd still rather have the side with the best player, which is still Holland. I know he wasn't great last year. He's still the best player out of those 4 names. He's still the best player. He just is. So I'd rather have that side. But again, it just comes down to, can Afedu, and I can't say this guy's name, Malafanu, can he stay healthy? Because if he can stay healthy, he's got a chance to be really good. But if it's going to be just 6 or 7 games or something like that, then it might get ugly there in the secondary. And the one guy we sort of haven't talked about, but I've sort of mentioned a few times, Patrick McMorris. Let's see what he does this year. He's the unknown guy that they're saying, that they love. And remember, when they took him off of IR late last year, they let the other safety from the Jets, what's his name? They let him go to San Diego, and they let him go, which was a huge mistake. But they like Patrick McMorris a lot. We'll see what he's got, and we'll see how he performs in training camp. But at least they got some warm bodies in the secondary. They still got nothing at linebacker, and they still got nothing on the line outside of Zach Sealer right now. So that's really probably the next big area of focus for the Dolphins. Okay, before we move on, a quick shout out to everyone listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And if you're watching us live here on YouTube or after the fact on YouTube, take a second, smash that like button. That's right, smash it. Smash it right now. Also, subscribe to the channel. We're going to have shows. I got shows on Wednesday with Ian, Thursday, Josh and Aaron. I have a show this week with Dougley Durong as well. We're going to have shows pretty much the rest of this week. I expect more signings this week, whether if they're large signings or not, or more of what we're sort of seeing, I don't know. But we're going to have shows all week, so make sure you're subscribed, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, Podchaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, or one of the other hundreds of platforms that you listen to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on. And if you want to leave us a super chat question, we'll answer them at the end of the show if you're watching live on YouTube. So there's that as well. Okay, let's talk about free agency overall. Couple of things, Tom, before I get your thoughts here. Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald, he said that Miami had spoken to a lot of quality free agents who signed with other teams. They were interested in them, but Miami refused to go past a specific price point. He says that the Miami Dolphins are showing a lot of restraint, and some cap management right now is taking place by Chris Grier and the front office. To summarize that, as Chris Grier would tell you, a fan, you're more worried about free agency than he is. And it tells me that he does not feel like he's on the hot seat one bit. Because again, if they're calling up all these guys and they're sort of inquiring about them, but they're willing not to go past a price point, which I'm sure they're signing for well past. It just that they came into this week with a plan, and it was said last week on the NFL Network by Cameron Wolf. They're looking for low-level signings and mid-level signings, and they're not going to go crazy spending money. And what have they done Monday and Tuesday? 1-year deals for a couple safeties really cheap. Zach Wilson, $6 million. I know some people think that's nuts. It's really not, but okay. The 2 offensive linemen, not a ton of money there. So they're just going for mid-level and low-level. A lot of these are really low-level, honestly. Signings. And, it just tells me that they are very confident. Now, whether they should be or not with their track record is a different story. But it tells me Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel are very confident they can address the needs on this roster with their 11 draft picks and not with buying a bunch of guys outside of these one-year deals, which they did last year, and which they will continue to do here moving forward, Tom. So I think look, it is what it is. I know some fans don't like it, and they don't think it's exciting, and it doesn't give them a lot of optimism. But Chris Grier, don't laugh. He's playing a long game here. He's not worried about being on a hot seat. He's playing a long game here. Cap management, not going to go nuts. And I'll take a shot on these guys on one-year deals if they work out great. If not, I ain't going nowhere. We'll worry about it next year. What are your thoughts?
He is what is it? Super glued or whatever that Gorilla Glue. Yeah, Gorilla Glue. He's got Gorilla Glue on his seat, man. He's not going anywhere. It is amazing. This guy has 25 lives with the Miami Dolphins. And yes, I use 25 because that's how long the Dolphins have missed the playoffs, or not missed the playoffs, won a playoff game. So look, I don't mind backfilling the roster with depth pieces. Okay. That's what this is right now. That's what he's doing. He's not going for the big fish. No pun. I wanted them. If those watching or listening, if you read my preview article, I was very much in the mid-tier guys, but I had one massive signing I wish they would have got, which was Milton Williams or whatever his name is from Philadelphia, who signed with New England. That's going to sting. If I wanted them to spend big money, it would have been on guys like Trey Smith. He was franchise tagged. You couldn't get him. Will Fries, for Christ's sake, got $17 million a season. Thank God you didn't go for that. I mean, I figured he was a 10 to 12 million guy, but 17 million is crazy. He's a good player, but man, some teams really did break the bank. It is important to remember the Dolphins have not touched Tua Tagovailoa's contract, right? They have not touched Tyreek Hill. They have not touched Jalen Ramsey. They are not doing anything to the bigger contracts nor restructure guys outside of the 2 big ones, which they took pay cuts to stay. It wasn't just a simple restructure. They literally took pay cuts in Armstead and Bradley Chubb. They are playing the long game right now. They're in kind of that mode where they can restructure some guys going into summer after they do the draft class and they know how many guys they have to sign. Then they can kind of tinker with some more money. It's all in the setup of the financials. And I think the Dolphins, I'm hoping, my fingers are crossed, that they are still looking for a starting cornerback and they are looking for another pass rusher to bring in. You have 3. 2 of them are coming off big injuries. And yes, I am counting Zach Sealer in the mix as a pass rusher because he's been pretty damn good. You need to add another body to that room. You have to. So we'll see what they do, but my fingers are crossed that they are going to add a starter in the secondary and another pass rusher to this team before we get to the draft. And hopefully within the next couple days, because it's a need. It's an absolute need. Spend the money where it's important. Spend the money at corner. Spend the money on a pass rusher. Spend a little more money if you want to get another starting offensive guard. Spend some money. You have room to move. I had them at $65 million in cap space. Even if you don't touch Tua's, you still got another $15 to $20 million that you can maneuver around for guys that you want here. Guys like Zach Sealer, guys like Jordan Brooks. those are the types of contracts that you want to move around, right? Those are guys you want to keep here. Give extension to Jonnu Smith. That frees up some money. Small extension. I'm not talking to give him a 5-year deal. Give him an extra year on his deal. It's his last year coming up. Give him another year. Do something to get additional starters on this roster.
Yeah, I think I do think they're going to sign a veteran corner for sure because they need to. But Lord knows he can't take any in the draft. He just is terrible at drafting corners. But I do think it's going to be a 1-year deal. Again, it's not going to be a multi-year deal because all the guys who are out there aren't worth a multi-year deal. Now, maybe it's a 2-year deal, but all the money is in year 1, really. So they can let them go after this year. Fine. But that's because that's just a game of semantics. But I do think they will get a corner in the next week or 2 or 3. Not everything has to be done this week, too. Fans have to realize that. Not everything has to be done this week. So I do see them signing a veteran corner. And I do think they're going to add someone on the front 7, whether it's a linebacker or an edge rusher of some sort there as well, because they just need more. But again, that's going to be a 1-year deal. It's not going to be – look, they're going to be passing out – this is what they did last year when they lost Wilkins. They signed 5 linemen that nobody ever heard of for the most part to 1-year deals. And only one of them made it out of training camp. They're going to do that now between now and the draft. I don't think there's going to be any – now, there might be someone with a name who people have heard of but really hasn't been a name in a few years, so you know who he is. But like last year when Miami signed Kendall Fuller, Dolphins fans are going nuts. I was like, well, you guys do realize he gave up 9 touchdowns last year and was terrible for Washington. So I don't know why everyone's so excited. Then he comes here, has 2 concussions and a knee injury. And it's like, yeah, Kendall Fuller 5 years ago would have been great. Kendall Fuller 2024, nothing to get excited over. They might do a signing like that, which I'm sure they will. And some fans will get way too excited about it. But like that type of signing's probably coming in the next week or 2 or 3 at corner. Same thing with edge. Joey Bosa, here's the latest. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it sounds like he's going to sign with San Francisco. Report Monday night, San Francisco, Miami. Miami made him an offer of less than $10 million for 1 year. And they said San Francisco made a very similar offer. Then San Francisco reached back out to Michael Silver, who's very tight in with San Francisco, and said, that's not true. Don't say that about the money. We haven't made him yet any offer. It might be more than that. And then today, San Francisco cut edge rusher Leonard Floyd, who signed with Atlanta like 10 seconds later. And that's pretty much a sign that they're going to get Joey Bosa, because why would you cut Leonard Floyd, who's good for 9 or 10 sacks every year, unless you know you got someone coming. Now, they could have cut Floyd because they have to pay their quarterback. That's out there too. But I think if Miami does want Joey Bosa, they're going to have to really beat out San Fran, and not just with the state income tax thing. I think Joey Bosa wants to play with his brother. So even with the state income tax, if it's close, he's going to San Francisco. They're really going to have to beat the offer if they want him. Again, I don't really care if he comes here because I don't think he's what we need, but it sounds like he won't be coming here. But again, Chris Grier might just feel like he's in a, sorry for being crude, a big dick contest that he has to win, and he could overpay for him at the end of the day. Who knows? But it sounds like he won't be coming here. We'll see what they do if they do bring in someone else as an edge rusher or a lineman. But that's the latest with Joey Bosa. Okay, Tom, you weren't able to join me last night, so I want to get your thoughts here on a few of the moves that Miami made on Monday. We'll save Zach Wilson for the end because that's like the most hot topic one, which I don't even have the energy for anymore. Let's start with the 2 offensive linemen, James Daniels and Larry Borum. James Daniels, great player. I won't say great, very good player. Just hopefully he can just be the same guy after the Achilles injury. That's the $1 million question, because if he can't, we're screwed. We're back to square one. If he can, he's a huge upgrade at right guard.
Yes.
And then Larry
Borum.
Well, Larry Borum, there's a lot of debate whether he's going to play tackle or guard. If you watch the tape, he sucks at tackle. But again, they don't have a swing tackle. So I still think Armstead, come hell or high water, is going to be gone. Lamb, they're not re-signing. I believe, and I know some people don't. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Doesn't mean anyone's right or wrong. We're going to find out in the next 6 months anyway, 8 months, whatever. I think he's their swing tackle. I know there's a lot of people who think they're going to move him inside to play left guard, which if they do, he's probably he might be. I don't know if you want to pencil him in as a starting left guard, but he could be your starting left guard at that point. I don't think he's a fit at that spot, but some people do. Everyone's entitled. What are your thoughts on those two signings?
I'm a big fan of James Daniels. I liked him out of Iowa. Was a big fan of him out of Iowa. I even think I had a mock to the Dolphins. I think it was round 2 when he came out in the draft. I was hoping the Dolphins would have signed him in 2022 in free agency. Instead, he went to Pittsburgh. But now they have him now. So I really like the signing. I like what James Daniels will bring to the table. He's a road grader, Mike, and pairing him next to a hopefully healthy Austin Jackson. And we talked about this a lot. I'll say it again. When Austin Jackson went down last year, the Miami Dolphins run game went with it. Austin Jackson was really that vital to the Dolphins ground game. But now pairing him and Daniels and Brewer, obviously as the center, you got 3 guys that can really move some people around in the ground game. And I like what they're doing, and I hope that it does pan out and get the Dolphins run game back to the way it was in 2023 and not what it was in 2024. Borum, you could pencil him in as your backup swing tackle. You could pencil him in as like your 3rd or 4th guard. It really doesn't matter. He's a young kid. He's got some athletic ability. He was not very good at tackle when he had spot play last year for the Bears. He's a depth piece. Again, build the back end of the roster. He can't be any worse than Liam Eichenberg or Robert Jones if he plays guard. At least you hope not. But my big takeaway after those 2 signings, Mike, neither name that was signed was Liam Eichenberg or Robert Jones. I think we're finally
if you jinx this time, I'm never talking to you again.
You might not, but if the Dolphins decide to bring any of those guys back, I think you even said that we will end the podcast.
The
website will cease to exist.
Here's
for
the deal.
Liam Eichenberg.
Jones already signed with the Cowboys, which I'm very happy. Good for Robert Jones. I didn't want Chris Greer to, and here's the thing. It's nothing personal. We need new faces. Sometimes, as I always say, when things aren't working, you got to open the window and let the stink out. And Robert Jones has been part of the problem, not part of the solution. Let him go to the Cowboys, get a fresh start. Wish him the best. Wish him all the best on his future endeavors. Goodbye. Isaiah Wynn, I know a lot of people want him back. Me, I could care less, honestly. This guy's always injured, too. He was always injured with the Patriots. Coming to Miami, he's always injured. I don't know why anyone wants him back. If they do re-sign Wynn, again, at this point, fine. I'm not going to go nuts. If they re-sign Liam Eichenberg, DolphinsTalk.com ends that moment. And I am not joking. The podcast goes away. The website goes away. I'm going to take the website and I'll take the podcast and I'm going to put up a sign. Gone fishing. It's over. I ain't doing this. Because I cannot treat them as a serious franchise if they bring them back. And again, nothing personal. Sure, Liam's a nice guy, got a great family, got a great life, made a lot of money. Great. I cannot watch this team continue to make the same mistake over and over and over. And he is the poster child for that. I know there's a lot of examples, from the general manager to the head coach to other players on the roster. But he is literally the poster child. He's failed at all 5 spots on the offensive line. And if they have any notion to bring him back, I'm done. I'm out. I don't need the NFL in my life that bad. I'm 47 years old. I can find other things to occupy my time if they are going to waste my time re-signing that guy. So it better not happen, because if it does, I'm done. And I know nobody cares, but I'm telling you, I'm done.
That would be funny if we posted a live, like we were going to go live, and then the background just says "gone fishing" for 30 minutes, and then it shut off. Would be hilarious.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of like the Sopranos cutting it black.
I mean, everyone has a breaking point. That's mine. Okay. I lived through Jesse Davis, and I lived through some of these other things.
We did.
I can't do it with Liam again. And again, not personal. I'm sure he's a great guy. Yeah. But if this franchise wants to even try to move forward and try and win, and I don't want to hear the spin, well, we're just signing him to be a backup. No. You know why? Because everyone gets hurt in Miami, and all the backups eventually play. So I don't want him in Miami to play, even if 3 guys get hurt. Let's put in good old Liam. No. Got to stop at some point.
Oh, geez. Schefter just reported Liam Eichinger back on 1 year deal.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody.
No, like, yeah, I'm with you. You can't continue to think that he's going to be anything. He's been nothing but a problem. He's gotten quarterbacks injured left and right because he can't block. He's on his ass most of the time, or he's on ice skates. It is laughable to see. And remember, they traded up a second-round pick for him.
They trade up 8 spots in round 2. 8 spots to take him. And again,
they could have Creed Humphrey where they were sitting.
I don't even fault him for the trade because here's why. Heading into that draft, every Notre Dame offensive lineman in recent years was like a home run pick. They all became home run players. San Francisco took a bunch. They were great. Like all these teams are taking these guys out of Notre Dame and they were great. So Chris Greer follows the trend. And I don't even fault Chris Greer for this. So people are like, oh, you mad? No, I'm not mad at Greer because I was on board with this. Look, Notre Dame offensive linemen, they're sending them to the NFL and it works. We got the dud. It's like Channing Tyndall. Georgia sends all these players to the pros. They all work. We got the dud. We got the dud out of Notre Dame. We got the dud out of Georgia. I don't blame Chris Greer for either move because that was the trend. And literally 9 out of 10 worked. In both cases, we got the one that didn't. So, I mean,
it seems like it always works for the Eagles, though. It always works for the Eagles.
I know. But, yeah, so.
Enough Liam Eichenberg. I don't want to talk about him anymore. He's not here.
He's not here. Hopefully, look, I hope he signs somewhere, makes money. It can't be here. Okay. Zach Wilson. This is still the most controversial topic amongst fans of the Dolphins the past 2 days. Why? I have no idea why this is controversial. But I think some Dolphins fans have crazy expectations of what a number 2 quarterback is. And as I've said on previous shows, you can have a preference of who you want. I'd rather have Winston than Wilson. I'd rather have Marcus Mariota than Zach Wilson. I'd rather have Mac Jones. That personal preference is fine. But at the end of the day, all these guys are number 2 quarterbacks for a reason. That reason, they got a ton of question marks around them, and they're all relatively – there's the same risk level involved. Would you rather have Joe Flacco, who's 40 years old and moves like a cigar shop wooden Indian? Some people would. I would just rather roll the dice on Zach Wilson. So, you can be upset that they didn't get the guy you liked. But honestly, if you think there's a big drop-off between Marcus Mariota and Zach Wilson, between Minshew and Zach Wilson, you're nuts. You're nuts at the end of the day. And, and they're $6 million. Yeah. Did you want another $1 or $2 million backup like Skylar Thompson, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley, who can't play? And again, I'm not saying Zach Wilson's great. Zach Wilson might suck with the Dolphins. There's probably a 50-50 chance he sucks with the Dolphins. I don't know. But there's also a chance he's improved. He's got an elite arm. Okay, he's got great arm. And he's got to work on between the ears, picking up the offense, not throwing late over the middle, all that stuff. Now, people wanted to hold it against him forever that he sucked with the Jets. Again, with the Jets, what did he have? He had terrible coaching and 0 weapons. What did Tua have the first 2 years? Terrible coaching and no weapons. When Mike McDaniel got here, Tua elevates his game. Not saying Zach Wilson's Tua, although he was picked number 2 overall, Tua 5th. I'm not saying Wilson's Tua. I'm just saying let's see what happens when now this guy's throwing to Hill and Waddle and Jonnu and Achan's in the backfield, and you give him a complement of weapons, as well as what Sean Payton said, that, even though he didn't play last year, they saw a lot out of him. And in the preseason, again, I know it's the preseason. Again, I know he looked spectacular. So maybe this kid, like Sam Darnold, who failed with the Jets and went elsewhere and turned around his career, Zach Wilson might be in a better situation to turn around his career. And for $6 million, that's nothing, because I think he is a better number 2 than Skylar, Tim Boyle, Tyler Huntley, and Mike White. I think he's better than them. Substantially better? No, but he's better. And he's, he went 12-21 as a starter. Are those all his fault? No. But he started a lot of games, so he's not going to be thrown to the wolves. He never has been in the spotlight before. He started for the Jets, the biggest spotlight there is in New York City. So I don't know why fans are upset. And then fans go, well, he can make $10 million. Great. If he's making $10 million, that means 2 things. A, our starter got hurt again, so screw him at that point, and he has to play. And B, he played well. So if he has to play and he plays well, I'll pay I'll give him $10 million out of my own pocket at that point because he'd be well worth it, Tom. Why people are upset, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I was one of the ringleaders to the Zach Wilson to Miami train. I feel the kid has untapped potential. He's athletic as all get out. He's got a very good arm, and he can play off script for the most part. He can run. It's kind of what you want here, right? Miami has nothing but statues in this quarterback room since always a statue in the pocket. Guys getting hurt consistently. Every Dolphins quarterback except for Tim freaking Boyle got hurt last year in Miami. Okay. They needed someone with some athletic prowess. Zach Wilson's that guy. He has athletic prowess. He's got a good arm. He was with Sean Payton last year. He got good coaching. Come on, let's be real. He got good coaching in Denver last year. You bring him to Miami, have him pick up this offense. If he has to play for a period of time, can you trust him for 4 to 6 games? I can. I think you could trust him when he was with the Jets, and that's where most of the people's PTSD is coming from, is his time with the Jets. He had nobody. Mike is correct. He also had Nathaniel freaking Hackett as his offensive coordinator, and Hackett had no idea how to use Zach Wilson because Aaron Rodgers was the guy, and he got hurt in the first 4 plays of that season. Zach Wilson in 2023 had a better record than Aaron Rodgers in 2024 with more talent. I think what I'm confused about overall is why people are upset about who the number 2 quarterback should be. You think the Dolphins are really going to take a quarterback in the early rounds of the draft? You're mistaken. They're not doing it. Not this year. They needed someone young in the room. They have someone. If Zach Wilson has to play substantial time and say he does really well, maybe you got something there. Maybe you have like this Justin Fields type scenario. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but
that's what you're hoping for, though.
That's what you want, because if he plays well and
that's a good
gets
problem.
those accelerators, that's a good problem to have, right? You want him to make $10 million because he succeeded for the team. There are other names that were out there. No name was going to be good enough for this fan base. Nobody that they could have picked up, unless the guy we got Justin Fields. That was never going to happen.
Never going to happen.
Never going to happen. Marcus Mariota. No, we don't need Marcus Mariota. Hell, I don't even know if we really need Zach Wilson. I think he's just got the most upside of who was available in the room, in the free agent market. Now let's see what he can do here in Miami. Let him get those reps in the summer. Let's see what he does in the preseason games. Get him as much time, because guess what, folks? He's better than Mike White, in my opinion. I don't care what happened in New York. He's better than Mike White. He's sure as hell better than Skylar Thompson. He's sure the hell better than Tim Boyle. Let's see what he can do with talent, because the other guys that were here last year didn't provide anything with the talent that was on that football field.
If he was here last year, he'd probably make the playoffs. And
possibly.
Because he
need 2 wins. You got to get 2 wins out of it.
Yes, he would have gave you some more. He probably would have beat the Colts. He would have won some games for you. Here's the deal. And I see some fans, or I've heard all day today, got off the field issues. No, he doesn't. He's never had off the field. Yes, his mom, after he was drafted, which you're going back a few years now, after he was drafted, his mom gave some crazy interviews. 1, that's his mom, not him. And 2, after a week, he shut his mom up and she never spoke again. So that was a 1-week issue. That wasn't even him. That was his mother. Okay. Yeah. A lot of players have crazy relatives who say crazy things, but he actually got his to shut the hell up. So I'm not going to hold it against the kid forever. That's number 1. Number two, at the end of his time in New York with Mike White, there was the year that the Jets players said they'd rather play with Mike White, not him. And 1, that's a Jets culture issue, and it says more about those players than it does Zach Wilson. Because Zach Wilson stayed, okay, he went to the bench, Mike White played. He didn't say a word, he didn't cause an issue. Then the following year, they signed Rodgers. went to the bench. Now he's a number 2. Rodgers a starter. Didn't complain, didn't say a word. 4 plays into the season, Rodgers goes down. Zach Wilson's a starter again, and he just went about his business and tried his best with all the handicaps around him of no weapons and a horrible coaching staff. This kid does not have off-the-field issues. You can't hold it against him that his mom gave a couple interviews like 4 or 5 years ago, and like for a week. That's not him. And if some players on Jets didn't want to play for him, that's why the Jets stink like us. Okay, that's not a Zach Wilson issue. That's a Jets culture issue. So there's that as well. Again, he might still suck. I don't know. None of us know. But guess what? I know Joe Flacco might suck too. Marcus Mariota might suck too. Like those guys are like, what are we talking about here? Like those guys are world beaters. So we're just hoping for the best with a young kid. And again, as I told fans last night, if you're a Dolphins fan, Tua years 1 and 2 with no weapons, Flores, and a million offensive coordinators really wasn't all that special. He looked like a bust years 1 and 2. And Dolphins fans gave him all the excuses because they were fair. And they gave him the grace because come year 3, Mike McDaniel, Hill, all these weapons show up and he sort of takes off his career. Just give the same grace to Zach Wilson. And if he stinks, we can say he stinks. But in a perfect world, he never sees the field and he never plays because maybe now Tua goes, you know what? I got to protect myself here. I can't be getting hurt missing time. I got to slide. I got to run out of bounds. If I throw a pick, I can't be in on the tackle, diving head first. I got to actually protect myself so I don't miss games because this kid, Zach Wilson, not that he's great, but if he steps in with all this talent, maybe, he might be pretty good. And I don't want to lose my job possibly because I'm always hurt again. So this might light a fire under our starting quarterback, which in years past, that was never the case with Huntley, Boyle, White, Skyler. Now, once again, not that he's great, but there's the potential that he might. The guy was picked number 2 overall for a reason, folks. Okay, number 2 overall in the draft for a reason. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's Joe Montana. I'm not saying he's out of Graham. Up until today, his career has sucked. It's been terrible. But there's something there. Sean Payton saw it last year. Clearly, Miami sees it, and now that he's going to have some weapons, he might be okay. And for $6 million for a number 2 quarterback. Sign me up over the other scrubs that are out there and over any other guy that we've had previously, because what's the worst that can happen? He stinks again, and we're screwed when our starter gets hurt. Been there. It ain't going to be any worse. It can only be better, Tom.
Yep. We got breaking news.
Oh, hold on. We got breaking news. Hold on, Tom. I got to play the graphic.
It's not good breaking news. Not good.
I don't care. We're going to play it.
Right, play it. Play it.
Hold on. I got to find it first. Hold on. Breaking news. We got breaking news. All right, what's the breaking news?
Joey Bosa has made his decision.
Yes. Was it San Francisco?
No. Let's make it worse, Mike. He signed a 1-year, $12.6 million deal with the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, that is a John Cena heel turn. I'm from Fort Lauderdale, from Miami. My brother's in San Francisco. Double bird, kick to the nuts, going to the Bills to chase a ring. I actually give him credit. He got $12 million and he got a chance to win a ring. Good for him.
He's going to make $2 million for the games he's going to play, man. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean.
That means he's playing 6 for those of you that are worried about that. Oh, Jesus.
I mean, look. Here's the thing with the Bills. They were dying to trade for Myles Garrett, and they weren't going to pay for Trey Hendrickson because that's just too much. I mean, he's a great player, don't get me wrong, but that was probably just too much for them. For a 1-year deal for a team that's trying to win a ring, it's actually a good move for them because they don't need him. He's just a luxury for them. If he's good, great. If he's not, they're going to be fine without him. So if he does get hurt and if he does play 5 games, they're like, okay, whatever. He's gone after this year. So I get it from their side, and from him, I kind of get it. So, okay, Joey Bosa, cross him off. We'll see what Miami does here. See if they got a counter move. See if they have a backup move in play. I don't know. Here's what I do think. By the end of the week, and Tom, I know you've said this, they're going to probably re-sign Tyrell Dotson. Now, am I going to get excited over that? No. But I think that's probably a move they're going to make at linebacker. It's cheap. It's easy. It can be 1 year for little money. That's the Chris Greer way right now. And then we'll see if they got any other things up their sleeve. But that's all for today's show. Thank you all for listening. I'll be back Wednesday night with Big E, Ian Berger, and we'll have any other news that breaks between now and then. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Be sure to follow Tom on social media at DolphinsTalk.com. Follow myself at DolphinsTalk. Check us out on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter, X, whatever the hell that is these days. And come on, Elon, get the site working. It's still not great. There's still some issues. Elon, do better. So we're there. And again, check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com for all the latest. Everyone have a great Tuesday night. We'll talk to you again after a while. Folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.
Fins up.